Well, hello. Welcome back. We finished up a series on videos of prayer. You can find that by searching for playlists and prayer. But now I want to talk a little bit about what do we believe? What do we believe as Christians, and kind of specifically what do we believe in the Methodist Church? And mostly I'm going to focus on what do we believe as Christians and just allow my natural slant to highlight where the Methodist Church is on some issues that I that I think are important. But before I really start with what we believe, I think that the most pressing thing for me is to talk about what are our core values and core beliefs. Because there are a great many things that Christians believe. Some of them are necessity. There are certain things that you must believe in order to be called a Christian. And then there are certain things that we give grace and liberty to allow people to express themselves in a variety of ways. So we have to know what are our core beliefs, and we have to know what are beliefs that can have a variety of expressions. But before we even understand those things, it's important to set our foundation. Because even though there are core beliefs, what we set as our guiding principles will ultimately influence how we express our core beliefs. So, what I mean by that is, if we look at a core belief, and here I'm thinking of in the Apostles' Creed, I believe in God the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. Now, if we express that as our core belief, as our core, what can happen is we can push into deism, where God is distant and God sits on a throne completely separated from humanity and hands down judgments. So what I want to express as our core for understanding our belief structure is this. There are two great concepts in the New Testament. Jesus says to the people, when they ask him, what is the great commandment? He says, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And when Jesus is praying for the church in the Gospel of John, as he's getting ready to finish his ministry here on earth, he says, Father, I pray that they might be one as you and I are one. Everything else I see in the Bible can kind of be rested on those 2 points. On the idea that we are to love God and love our neighbor, and that we are to be united as a church. Now, this does not mean we are going to get along perfectly with everybody. It does not mean we are going to agree on everything. It's not to say that we are going to enjoy the same kinds of worship, or that we need to shut down all the denominations and merge into one unified building. What that means is that we should be gracious and compassionate towards our brothers and sisters, even if they express themselves somewhat differently. It means that we should still try to have fellowship with them. It means that we should work with them. It means that we should hold them in high regard, because Jesus wants us to be one. We are to love our neighbor. We are to love our neighbor because we love God, and God loves our neighbor. As is often said, you will never meet a person whom God does not love. And so, as we try to express ourselves in the world around us, we should be about love. Now, that has implications for how we are going to talk about some of the doctrines, some of the teachings of the church. Doctrine, by the way, is just a fancy word for teaching. How we talk about some of the things that the church holds important is going to be governed by the fact that we believe that we are called to, above all things, love God and love neighbor. And in that, we are to be united as a church in some way, shape, or form. So for me, that means that I am going to pursue the center of the stream, so to speak. If you think of Christian thought as a river, I am going to try to stay in the center of the current. I will express loyalty to the entire river. I will hold myself in the river, but I want to stay in the center of the current where the great tradition of the church is. And so that's how I approach unity. And I also approach love in a similar vein. I am going to recognize what are the core beliefs of the church. And while I might have disagreements with people and I might want to hash those out, I'm going to try to allow some level of charity between myself and those people I disagree with. So there might be issues on which you and I disagree. Some of that can be legitimate. And what I would ask is that you would show me the same kinds of liberty that I can show you. And that is to respect another person's opinion, to argue gracefully, to not allow those trivial matters to divide us as we work together for God's mission and ministry. I think that's about it. I do want to say that if you have, I kind of have an order of things that I want to talk about and some of the ideas that I have, but obviously my thoughts will be governed by everybody else's thoughts. So if you have points that you want to talk about or want me to talk about, I encourage you to let me know, and we'll discuss those in some way. If I'd love to see this series spill over into in-person meetings, so if anybody wants to sit down and have a cup of coffee over some of this stuff, I'm more than happy to do so. Until we meet again, God bless.